Hey everybody, Rich here, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. Today we're going to do a cooking video. Um, we're going to make use of the sun and our solar wax melter to make some fruit leather. Here we go. So I'm going to take this out for the moment, put this down. We're not going to need that for the rest of this video. Now I'm going to, I should say, for directions, instructions, and a full video on how to make this solar wax melter, refer to my earlier videos. We will leave a link in the show notes to that particular video. Then later on, I demonstrated using the solar wax melter as a bucket tipper. You can go look at that one if you want. And the theme here is different things you can do with a piece of equipment that you've already made. Okay? And today we're going to use this to make fruit leather. Now, I've been making fruit leather for many years because we always have more mango than we know what to do with. And normally I do it the easy way in the oven. Prep everything we're going to do here in the prep on this is the same I would do if I was putting it in the oven. It's just the last step. Instead of putting it in the oven on the dehydrate setting, which is a fan in 120 degrees, and going to bed and forgetting about it, we're going to do it the unpowered way by using our little solar melter here to make the leather.
Which also doesn't heat up the kitchen when it's really hot outside.
Yeah, it doesn't heat up the kitchen when it's hot outside, and when the mangoes are ripe, it's pretty hot outside. Okay, so here we have 1 quart of mango chunks that have been harvested. They came out of this 1 quart container, and 1 quart happens to be just about the right amount for doing something like this. So that's very good. First thing I do is I put it in a colander and I let some of the excess moisture drip down from the outside. Doesn't lose a lot that way, and this is all just sugary syrup. So first thing we're going to do, we have here an ordinary bullet, which is all you need. You don't need a food processor for this.
Or a blender would be
Or a blender.
usable.
If you have one, you want to use it, use whatever you want to chop it up and mash it up. Could you just do it by hand with the big bowl and a masher? Yeah, you could. But, you know, most of us have a certain amount of electronics or electrical devices in the kitchen. Do it however you want to do it. And before I put that last scoop in there, I just want to make sure I have enough room just for the flavor of it. No need for this step if you don't want to, but I'm just going to put 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder in there because cinnamon goes very nicely with mango as long as you don't overpower it. Okay, we can get that out of the way. We can get that out of the way. Here's some fruit leather from about 1.5 years ago. If you're wondering what the shelf life of this stuff is, I don't know yet. This is out of a container from the back of the fridge. I didn't even go in the back fridge where I know I have some that's at least 2 years old. As long as you keep it refrigerated, it's good for a long time. I started to eat that and then realized, it's pretty sticky stuff. Better to talk without that in the way. Come on, there we go. Alrighty. Come on. Yep, that looks done. Okay, we'll get that out of the way. Get that out of the way. Okay. Now, I'm going to take the cover off. We don't have too long here. There's a thunderstorm moving in. Let's tip this up. It's dead, Jim. Boy, is it dead. We'll come back to this in a few minutes. Because my wife tells me, and she should know, she watches cooking shows all the time, that you show the process and the procedure, and then you come back to the final product at the end of the video. Now, here is the single most important step in the video, and I'll tell you why. Parchment baking paper. Whether you want to call it baking paper, parchment baking paper, whatever, oven-safe paper. The first time I ever did this, I didn't have any, and I went, what can it hurt? I'll just use aluminum foil. Worst mistake I ever made.
What happened with the aluminum foil?
There was really no getting it off of the aluminum foil. The amount of work that it took to peel any of this stuff off, was just too much. What I just did was stick it in there to kind of see how much too wide. Hey, if you've got a 10 framer like this, this will fit just fine, but I've got an 8 framer. So I'm going to fold these sides up. You'll see I didn't do that sufficiently well there. And we'll have to unpeel it. Okay. So.
Just fits inside.
Just fits inside. Now, there's a reason that I made this prominent front and center. It is absolutely critical that you start out the first few days with this perfectly level. Whatever you've got to do to fudge it, to make it perfectly level. This isn't quite level. Let's see if this will do her. Because that slurry can just run everywhere. Get a little bit more. Good. Okay. All righty, here we go. Now, if you want to do this with apples or pears or something like that that has natural pectin in it, yeah, that works a lot better. And if I were to take some pectin, a packet of pectin, and add it to this, that would work good too, but I didn't. I just do this straight up natural.
And the whole quart fits in there?
Yep, that's why it just happens to be perfect to do this with a quart of puree. Because you would not believe just how thick this was to start with. There we go. We just move that out a little bit. Now, the most important thing to know is the mechanics of this, which we're going to get into right now. So, if you made your extractor, if you made your melter the same way I did, then all you have is a piece of glass that lays on top of this rubber gasket all the way around. Because you're going to set this out. It can be out in the sunshine, and if it rains, it's not a big deal. It's because it's covered with glass. If you put a hinge on yours, you've got a problem, and I'll explain why in just a second. So, this piece of glass is on here. You put this out in the sun. You come back in half an hour, and this whole top on the inside is just dripping with water. Heavy, heavy, heavy condensation. And all you have to do is lift it up give it a good shake, flip it over, put it down like this. It's still mostly covered with water, but now that water is on this side, and as the sun starts to evaporate the water from this side, it's cooling the glass, and the water on the inside is sucking up all that much faster. That first day, don't expect to get if you're working in the garage or you're working around the yard or something like that, that's great. Every half hour or so, you come out, flip it, put it down on there again. By the end of the first day, this stuff will be pretty stuck in. Now, what I've been doing is it was just inside the garage door, and every sunny morning, I take it out and I put it in the sun, and when the afternoon thunderstorms move in, I pick it up, I put it inside. After the second day or so, I could start tipping it up to get better sun angles on it because by then it was stuck in pretty well. But here's another use for your solar wax melter when you're not using it for that. It can be used to dehydrate stuff. And somebody's going to say, hey, Rich, what about last week's video when you were making punk wood and you were using glass jars and things? Couldn't you use this? Yeah. The reason this wasn't in the video was because it was being used for making some fruit leather. And I did not want to mess up the fruit leather or anything by getting it in there. But absolutely, you can throw lots and lots of punk wood into here, tip it up into the sun, and you can let it do all that job instead of those little jars I was demoing. But you can understand why I demoed them. Okay, so according to my wife, this is the next step.
So this is after it's all dry.
This is after it's been drying.
About how many days do you estimate?
Well, given our weather down here and at the afternoon rains and everything else, it's taken a whole week to do this.
Okay.
More than a week. But look how easy this peels off the parchment paper. There you go. You've got your own homemade fruit roll-ups. And it just tastes like mango.
With a little cinnamon.
Well, this batch didn't have cinnamon in it. Didn't occur to me at that point. I've made it with cinnamon before. But yeah, you can see why it's called fruit leather. You may not have gotten that if you bought roll-ups in the stores, but it looks like a chunk of leather, doesn't it? But there you go.
And it should be refrigerated?
Yeah. I cut it into strips, roll the strips up, put them in a container, and I pop them in the fridge.
Great lunch snack.
Snacks, lunch, the Alify Rendezvous. It's my primary treat at the Rendezvous is just having some leather out there. But there you go. Is that cool or what? Another use for your solar wax melter to make use of your harvest. Mango here in South Florida. No, it does not work that way for avocado. Don't try it. I don't think that would be good. But if you're somewhere else and you're watching this video, pears, apples, things like that that have pectin in them particularly are even better. Blackberry purees, strawberry purees, mulberry purees, whatever. Anything that you can put through your bullet and make a mush out of, spread it out here. This keeps the flies and bugs off of it while the sun dries it out. You'll have to get used to your own weather conditions, your own techniques for building. Like I say, I like it this way because I can flip it. And I'll have to retrieve that in a few days. No bugs can get in here. Just don't put it down on the ground. And keep it perfectly level for the first few days. After that, you can start tipping it up into a better sun angle and speed up the process, That's it. Just another use for your solar wax melter. Everybody have a great time. Like and subscribe. And enjoy the weekend. See you later.